Set amid the constant warfare of the old world, Warhammer Diskwars is a game of ferocious, fast-paced battles for 2 to 4 players. At the heart of the game's conflicts are its discs, which represent heroes and units. During the game, players activate these discs to move and attack, wreaking destruction across the battlefield. Discs advance by flipping end over end. If a disc covers another disc, the covered disc becomes pinned, and the 2 units fight each other during the melee phase. Players achieve victory by destroying all opposing armies or by having the most victory points at the end of 5 rounds of play. Warhammer Diskwars is not played on a game board. Players instead measure a 3-foot by 3-foot area on a flat surface using the range ruler and the battlefield markers. Heroes stand at the forefront of each army in Warhammer Diskwars. Before a game, you and your opponents decide how many heroes you will each bring to battle. Each hero has a number of recruitment points that can be spent to recruit units. Command cards are used to activate your units on the battlefield, allowing you to marshal your armies into position. Use the Shield of Sapphire to protect your units from damage, or call upon Myrmidia's Blessing to give a unit extra movement on the field of battle. Scenario cards dictate the active scenario in play. During setup, the player lowest in initiative draws 2 scenario cards and chooses one to be the active scenario for the duration of the game. Each player is then dealt an additional scenario card that is kept secret and contains their specific objective. For example, a player may draw Conquest and gain a victory point for each enemy casualty, or he may engage in Generalcide to score victory points by singling out his opponent's heroes. A number of deployment zone cards, equal to the number of regiments in the game, are dealt next to the battlefield. Players select deployment zone cards and place them along their edge of the battlefield to create their deployment zone. Cards placed next to each other can create one large deployment zone. Finally, players draw 4 terrain cards and take turns selecting and placing the corresponding pieces on the battlefield. Terrain may block your opponent's line of sight or halt their movement and allow your units to strike first. Once the battlefield is ready, each player deploys his units within the bounds of his deployment zone and the battle begins. As you charge into battle, you and your opponents attempt to destroy each other with custom armies. Use ranged attacks to hold your enemies at bay and then cut them down in brutal melee engagements. Discs are activated using command cards. Each command card has a strategy used to determine the order in which they're resolved. Players resolve bold strategies before steady, devious strategies before bold, and steady strategies before devious. Slow strategies are resolved last. Command cards also indicate the number of units you activate, and many introduce other game effects that dramatically alter the outcome of the round's combat. In this example, the Empire player reveals an Assault command, while the Orc player reveals an Eager Troops command. Bold strategies resolve before steady strategies, so the Empire player activates his units first. The Empire player activates 4 discs on the battlefield. Each activated disc can take one of 4 basic actions: move, resolve a focus ability, make a ranged attack, or pass. The Empire player activates a Marienburg Swordsman unit, which has a movement of 5 and takes a move action. The Empire player moves this unit by flipping it end over end, advancing it across the battlefield until he stops on top of an Orc Boys unit. This pins the Orc Boys and initiates a melee attack at the end of the round. After the Empire player finishes his remaining activations, the Orc player resolves his activations and play continues to the melee phase. During the melee phase, discs deal damage based on their attack strength and counter strength, which occur simultaneously. The Swordsman unit does 4 attack damage to the Orc Boys, and the Orc Boys unit does 3 counter damage to the Swordsman. Since the Orc Boys unit only has a toughness of 4, it is destroyed and removed from battle. However, the Orc Boys' counter-strength damage of 3 must be applied before the unit is removed from play. So 3 damage tokens are placed on the swordsman, lowering the swordsman's toughness from 4 to 1. Even though most combats involve just 2 discs, some units may end up engaged with multiple attackers or defenders. Perhaps you'll maneuver Archaon the Ever-Chosen to pin 2 Reichland crossbowmen, or your opponent may swarm your bolt thrower with a host of Kurgan marauders. Even in the largest engagements, each unit only deals melee damage to 1 enemy. When a disc is pinning multiple discs, players choose which enemy the disc is attacking or defending against, starting with the attacking player. If more than 1 disc is attacking or defending against a single disc, those discs can combine their strength together. Additionally, specific abilities may alter the standard rules, and units like the Bloodthirster with the Frenzy keyword are able to attack all units they pin. The combats of Warhammer Diskwars are fast and furious. Units will fall in battle, and the game will change with every round as units are pinned, vanquished, and freed from engagements. Warhammer Diskwars Army building rules allows you to easily recruit your forces and experiment with different strategies and synergies. You can focus on offense, defense, or mobility. You can prioritize ranged attacks, or build armies full of cavalry units ready to charge at their foes. You can explore the strengths hidden in different keywords, and you can expand your creative options with future expansions which will introduce new units, command cards, and terrain. An age of warfare has dawned. Heroes spur their regiments into battle. Lesser armies are obliterated. Victorious commanders become legends. Dive into the fast-paced conflicts of Warhammer Diskwars and rise to glory.